We have nearly completed the Airbnb experience creation. We're going to go through the rest of it pretty quick. On the notes here, you can put some additional notes. For example, things like that guests might need to know that aren't included in anything else you've written so far. I don't have any notes in here. On the guest requirements, you want to go through this, especially if you've got something like alcohol in your experience, or if there's an age limit where you don't want, say, anyone under 18 coming, or you don't want anyone who can't walk, for example, or, you don't want any kids on there. You want your experience clearly indicated on how active it is. Then you've got additional requirements. In the additional requirements, I put with the live streaming studio having no chairs, be prepared to be standing the entire time. This isn't not like a sit around experience. I also recommend check the require a verified ID. It's not very hard to take a picture of your driver's license and submit it to Airbnb. This gives you an additional layer of protection, essentially, especially if you're doing something at your home or home office. You want people to verify, or a community place where if you work somewhere, you're having someone come by where you work. These experiences are often going to be places you hang out and are available a lot. And to me, I don't see any reason not to check require a booker to verify their ID, because this way, when someone books your experience and they're getting the meeting location, they don't actually get the meeting location until the reservation is confirmed. Therefore, you might as well require them to verify their ID beforehand. That way, they've provided their ID to Airbnb. It's an additional layer of security. It can give you a little bit of peace of mind about, well, what if some crazy books my experience? Well, they've given their ID to Airbnb, and therefore that they have that level of accountability. On the group size, I talked about a little bit in pricing, but make sure you set your group size where it's not too big. These are meant to be very personal experiences where you connect. If you've got 10 people and you can handle it, that's great. But you might only get one in the maximum group size of 10 also. Therefore, these seem to be guided towards small, intimate experiences. That said, if you're doing something like a run, maybe you could put 10 people, especially if your price is lower, you can handle 10 people. Again, though, you want very intimate personal connections with people, and a smaller group size will make that easier. Even on a run, something like a run, you might have having one person to deal with is pretty simple. Having 10 people, that might make it a lot more complicated. So consider the guest requirements in the context of the guest size and in the context of the pricing. Now, the default time, you can pick exact times and dates when you would like to host. You can pick, this is where you pick the length of it. I was a little confused for a minute on this as to where I picked the length. So this is where you actually pick out the length. You can say at what time will you typically host the experience. This is just for review. What you can do after your experience is approved, as it says on here. It says later on you will pick the exact calendar dates you'd like to host, and you'll be able to adjust the individual times. This is just a general amount of time, the basic window of the event. For example, mine 12 to 1:30 p.m. was the basic place I was planning. And then you get from there the amount of time total, so 1.5 hours total there. And when you go forward, and then I'll save that change going forward. Then on the next one, what do you need to know for your final guest count? This is interesting to see how quickly you can respond if someone books it. So the final guest count basically is a cutoff time before someone can book. I was setting mine to 1 hour before start time, which is a bit risky because if you end up no showing, you could get some negative feedback. But for me, it's a home office. I almost always am within an hour and could come home of my home office. What this little graph shows you here is how often people book this far in advance. So what you can see is 44% of guests book a week and more in advance. Then what you can see here is a full list of what percentage of guests book based on the time. So you can see 100% of guests book an hour or more in advance, 99% 2 hours or more, 97%, 3 hours or more. Therefore, you could get most of the people with 4 hours or more in advance, 96. And then you get a good amount of advance notice. However, if you really want to get those last minute people who their other event they were going to do got canceled, they have something they want to do right away in the afternoon, for example, then you could take people up to an hour in advance, get some extra bookings that way. And if you see the longer you require, the less people book that far in advance. You therefore want to make a balance between what you can handle in terms of lowering your booking time. So what it says on here is you could reach 56% more guests by lowering your cutoff time. So it's a balance to put your cutoff time at something you can consistently handle. If you get a text message from Airbnb that says your event's been booked and you've got 1 hour to go be ready for it. You want to make a balance of this here so that you can always be prepared for last minute bookings and at the same time get the maximum amount of bookings. Then would you like to have your experience unscheduled if guests book by a certain time? I'm not sure exactly what difference this makes, but that is an option on there. Then you can also have private groups on here that it says guests can book an experience privately so you can less worry about filling empty slots. This means they can buy out an entire instance. If for example, if your maximum group size like mine is 4, then guests can book an entire experience privately, which is nice. So definitely book this on here. And then you need to put a minimum price in for the whole group. So for example, let's say I could put, you could book the whole experience out for $250. There, that'll allow you, let's say someone sees that there's 4 potential people that can be there, but they want a guaranteed one-on-one experience with me. Then what I've allowed it to do is if someone pays $250 instead of $97, they get a guaranteed one-on-one with me. I think this is a very good option to check for maximizing your earnings and allowing, let's say you have a run and you have a max of 10 people. Maybe someone just wants a one-on-one run. You can offer it, say maybe for 5 times the price or something. Then one person could just book it by themselves. They get a nice one-on-one run with you instead of being potentially one of 9 other members. Therefore, this private groups options seems like really valuable. And if you look over here, you can see the price chart based on what you put in to make it private. Now, we've finished everything here. This then gives us the chance we are ready to review and submit our listing. Thank you very much for going through with me how to create your experience. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I'm very interested to learn on what happens with your experience going forward.